Can you beat Enter the Gungeon without dodge rolling? In this bullet-storm dungeon crawler, avoiding damage is everything. And hell, the studio who made this is even called dodge roll. So that's why today, we're throwing that all out of the window to take on this dodgeless run. Out the gate, the rules are admittedly clean and simple. Not once during the challenge are we allowed to dodge roll, or use that same button and function. So that means no bloodied scarf loopholes for us this time. Past that, all else goes, and we can get into it. So let's reload the chamber and prepare to take on this no dodge challenge. Hey there folks, I'm Skip the Tutorial, and here we get to the bottom of gaming's weirdest challenges. And hey, if this is your first time here, then take aim on that subscribe for weekly deep dives into your biggest questions. Booting up the run, it's swiftly apparent that our whole strategy from a regular Gungeon playthrough isn't gonna cut it. And this time is gonna be a hell of a lot different. So, for that matter, here are the 7 biggest obstacles that we'll have to face for the run, ranked from BB gun to rocket launcher. Number 7. Defense. Off the bat, a lot changes when we remove this one option, not the least of which is how we choose to avoid damage, because even without a dodge roll, we've still got to make our way through countless enemy projectiles. So, how do we get about it? Well, as much as I would like it to, sidestepping isn't always going to cut it. So we've got to look elsewhere. And if you ask me, the single best place to look has to be the character choice. And more specifically, choosing the bullet for this run. Past just having an adorable character design, this little guy also packs an invaluable item for the run, with his starting sword Blasphemy. With this kit, we can slash and swipe through oncoming bullets, and that gives a perfect chance to cut through some of the competition, especially with bosses. Additionally, the bullet character lets us brush up against enemies and then walk away carefree, since contact damage isn't an issue for him. Now, don't get me wrong, there are still plenty of issues that the bullet doesn't get us away from. And really, getting the defense right for the run comes down to a mix of a few things. For one, we've got to have plenty of luck, since blanks and health are going to be critical to survive. But also, we'll need a fair bit of practice to get through swinging that sword through enemy danger. Number 6. Fire. So here's where the no dodge roll part can actually bring the run to a full stop. Now, common practice when you catch on fire is to stop, drop, and roll. And Gungeon's no different for that. The way that the burn status effect works here is that every time the meter fills up, we're gonna take damage. And the only way to reduce it is to roll ourselves safe. However, when we're not able to pad out the flames, we'll just stay on fire. And that burn meter is gonna take us straight to a death. Without our main option to extinguish our burns, we'll have to find some other method to staying safe. Luckily, we do have a few items which might just do the trick. Passive items such as the Ring of Fire Resistance and the Hazmat Suit will keep us immune to fire. Throw on the chance of scoring other fireproof synergies such as Hotter Than Heck or Bugging Out, and we do have a fair amount of options to get us past. However, if our luck just doesn't check out, then the best bet might just be to stay away from fire traps at all costs. Otherwise, we'll light up faster than a witch in Salem. Number 5. Lasers. Everything that we planned out earlier for defense kinda falls apart here. You see, while Blasphemy can slice and dice through regular projectiles, no problem, it doesn't quite do the same for laser attacks. This makes specific enemies a real pain to deal with, since we're critically restricted on how we can take them down. Take for example, an encounter with a Det, which even though they're cute, they can give us quite a bit of hassle for the run. Now, when they're stationary, it's a lot easier to predict and avoid the laser attacks, but the times where they drift around the map can really bring some pain. Really, the tactic for fighting foes like this, or even the Skeleton, is just to find some cover and pray to make it out alive. But a foe like the Beholster from Gungeon proper doesn't offer up the same choice, since it's a likely candidate to take out any hope of shelter that we have for the fight. Really, for cases like this, the best tactic comes down to popping a blank and wiping past the lasers. Otherwise, the damage taken's gonna ride pretty high. Number 4. Grab attacks. Now, for every other form of damage, we've found some different way to deal with the enemies. But there's one final type that doesn't afford the same luxury. For this category, we've got the Gripmaster and the Tarnisher, both with movesets centered around grabbing us at the worst time possible. At least for the Gripmaster, we don't have to worry about it dealing any extra damage if it catches us. However, getting set back a couple of rooms can be a real pain point, especially since in this challenge, the less time we fight enemies, the better. But take these Sarlacc-looking tarnishers, and the whole thing gets even worse. If we don't know how to properly escape one of these things, then we'll be lining up for a failed run. Throw on top their moments of invulnerability, and they've gotta be one of the most annoying enemies to deal with without dodge rolling. To be frank, the way to stand any chance against these guys has to be decking out our strongest weapon and blasting them before they even catch us. But unfortunately for us, that's not the only trouble we're gonna have with pits, because we still gotta face number 3, actual pits. Of all the pieces in this run, this part in particular really comes down to require some insane luck for us to get past. So obviously, we can't just roll over these gaps, and falling in just means we're gonna get damaged. With all of that, we're gonna have to get clever in the ways that we work past these roadblocks. My first thought for this was using the balloon gun, which allows us to glide just fine while holding it. But it becomes less than optimal whenever we get hit, since the major downside for this gun is that taking damage sends us careening back to the floor. That's fine though, because we do have some other safer options, like the Ring of Ethereal Form. Although, held items like that only work while active, and that's an issue in its own way. If the item's on cooldown and we don't have any way to recharge it, then we're stuck with a pit and a restart. For those reasons, we've really got to test our luck with the game's various passive options for infinite flight. Items like the jetpack, the wax wings, or even the cat bullet king throne all are damn near crucial for the run. And that means we're gonna have to change up our looting strategy. While we would usually stick to opening up the rare red and black chests in a typical run, these items are found in green and blue. So we just need to cross our fingers and hope to get one of them when opening up a chest. And while it might seem tedious to keep trying over and over for one of these flight items in the earlier chambers, it's when we reach places like the Black Powder Mine and the Forge that really give us a run for our money. If we find just one uncrossable pit that blocks us off from the rest of the chamber, then that puts an end to what could have been a perfect playthrough. Number 2, bosses. Admittedly, the bosses aren't changed all too much this time through. Just like we would in a regular run, we're able to damage them all just fine, and they're all theoretically possible. But it's the execution that really makes these segments tough. While foes like the Bullet King and the Mind Flayer can be easily farmed with a couple of good swings from Blasphemy, others like the Kill Pillars and the Beholster tell a much different story. As mentioned earlier, not being able to dodge roll really puts us on the disadvantage for large onslaughts of projectiles and unblockable laser attacks. While that does mean these fights can put us in a spot to lose a few hearts, they're all very possible, particularly if you have earlier knowledge of their flight patterns. The same is tough to say for the Dragon though, because the Brawl beefs up quite a bit without the dodge roll. Bullet patterns where we have to swipe back and forth aren't always easy to pull off with just our Blasphemy sword, and that can lead to some progressive damage being dealt to us throughout the battle. And frankly, I did prioritize damage with my chamber gun at some points in the fight, and sacrificed a bit of my health because of it. But I'll still stand by this bullet hell finale being a real issue if we're not able to bob and weave through every single bullet. Funnily enough, the easiest part of the fight might just be the dragon's armored phase. Because even though the whole screen gets absolutely filled with projectiles, it's nothing we can't handle with our wings and Blasphemy, which gives us a shot at the heart and the ability to take down the big baddie. But if we can beat the run's big boss, then what's the biggest problem of the run? Number 1, the final room. After all that it took for us to get here, from the insane luck of our item drops and dungeon layout, to the pure pain of fighting through all of the enemies and bosses, we finally made it to the game's one last room. As we spawn in and get ready to take our victory lap, we gear up for just a short walk and... oh. Since we're stripped from all of our items at this point, we have no way to get across the pits. The only way I can find to do this section in my research is just a dodge roll, and that's obviously not going to work for us. So we can beat the absolute majority of a Gungeon run without dodge rolling. But is it possible to see the credits? Not this time. And with that folks, fire at this one up in the top right to see us take on Undertale without dodging attacks. Or give a shot to this one in the bottom right for another video. If you want to support the channel and get reloaded with new uploads every week, then roll on over to that subscribe. But until then, take care, and you have a good one, alright?